Radking. Look, I know what you're thinking, and no, I'm not in a cult. Cults, they're weird. They make you give up all your stuff and money, okay? Radking says we won't even need money once Adam comes around to bless us with his glow. So I gave it all to him so he could throw it away. I just had to close my eyes for like 5 minutes while he was like shuffling around with like, I think like a mystic bag or something. I don't know. I feel so blessed. Radking is a Fallout YouTuber that makes videos that cover every single aspect of the Fallout series. Seriously, he discusses things like discussing the differences of ghouls between each game installments, to discussing the geographical location of every type of NPC you can think of. Now you know you've got my unrivaled attention when you make me disappointed that you weren't going to spend 33 minutes discussing the actual litter of the franchise, but then you just went on and did it. I mean, how am I supposed to know where an aluminum can came from without my holy messenger? I'll leave a link below. Synonymous. Synonymous is another Fallout YouTuber who dives into the lore of the Fallout series. He discusses the various factions, creatures, individuals, and events that make up the entire Fallout series. And I kid you not, this guy has the most appropriate narrator voice for these videos. And they make for a great watch whether you're really into the franchise at the moment, or you just need some really interesting background noise. It definitely helped me out when I was writing up this video. So I could not recommend this guy enough. I'll leave a link in the description. Nerbit. Nerbit is another YouTuber who's best known for his Fallout challenge videos. But he also makes videos on other games like Skyrim, Batman Arkham Knight, and Metal Gear. And this guy is genuinely insane. I never thought I'd be invested in a Lincoln Fallout roleplay playthrough until now. He's actually the reason I learned about just how Terminator-esque Malcolm can be when he's trying to tell you about the time. You know the time. I'll leave a link below. The many cults of Fallout. Now, as you can imagine, within the nuclear wasteland of the Fallout series, there are a variety of cults that followed the bombs, and many that were actually born of it. Excluding the Children of Adam, of course. I mean, you can't be a cult if you're right. Like, the bombs didn't fall because of global conflicts, whatever that means. It was because Adam wanted to cleanse the Earth, clearly. If we were a cult, would we be praying to massive bombs that weren't blessed by his glow? I didn't think so. Give me your lunch money. Now, a real cult would be the Tree Miners from Fallout 3. A group of post-apocalyptic tree huggers who congregate in the Oasis. Tucked all the way in the corner of the map, so you can definitely not find it on your first playthrough. Unless you find a note, or someone tells you, I guess. I love open world design. It's so cool. I love when the game tells me when to have fun. That's cool. I don't hate Fallout 3, I don't like aspects of it. It's in the Oasis, where the Tree Miners worship a sacred tree spirit. He's also known as Harold from Fallout 1 and 2. So it turns out that twig Bob kept growing on his head bigger and bigger. Eventually too big for Harold to carry, and eventually rooted him to the ground, causing him to grow further and bigger. This sudden spike in foliage caused this little greenery in the Oasis. Another cult would be the Bright Brotherhood in Fallout New Vegas. This group was led by Jason Bright, a glowing ghoul. Poke poke, haha, fun fun. Now the Bright Brotherhood believed that Earth is no longer safe for their kind, that being ghouls, and so they pursued their own great journey by piling up into these barely functional rockets. That'll get them going. Even Mothman has a cult in Fallout 76. Mothman's followers believe that Mothman himself predicted the Great War, and blessed one of his followers, referred to as Brother Charles, with a vision of what was to come, which prompted the cultists to seek shelter in the Lucky Hole Mine. After the cult emerged, they split into two sub-factions. The Enlightened, who followed Brother Charles out of the mine to worship the Mothman with fuchsia eyes. And there are the followers of the Winged Ones, who remain within the mines with the first priestess of the wood. And this group actually worships a Mothman with red glowing eyes. The last one I'm going to be covering is Hubology, from Fallout 2 and Fallout 4's Nuka World DLC. Now this actual pre-war cult was formed by a man named Dick Hubble. Hubology belief holds that by purifying the neurodynes in one's body, a person can ascend to greater levels of spiritual power, which will eventually lead one to transcend from the material world. In order to help purify these neurodynes, Hubologists will use scientific spirituality methods in exchange for a fee. It's one of those pay-to-win cults, the fucking nerve. Now, Hubology itself is actually based on the real world, Tom Cruise Club, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Please don't sue me. Fallout Dust. Created by Nogrimo4, Fallout Dust is a New Vegas survival mod that takes the Mojave Wasteland and kills pretty much every friendly character within the game. You see that nice NPC that gave you some water? They're dead now. Prim Slim? He's dead. You know we're fucked. Just name any character, and they've probably died in just a really terrible way, and there's gonna be some writing about it somewhere around. That's right, this mod is way more than New Vegas, but survival mode. The mod actually adds a ton of new lore and stories that circle around the one remaining quest: escape the Mojave. There's a video by Spaceman Scott that definitely goes way more into detail, and I'll leave a link in the description. I really like Dust for taking Fallout New Vegas into a new, almost horror-esque direction. I haven't played it myself mainly because I am chronically afraid of downloading mods onto my PC after a really bad experience with the Minecraft mod on my family computer. And even with my own computer, I'm just kind of scared of that, so I'm just more of a outsider looking in through a family window. Don't call the cops. Not so good perks. While playing through the Fallout games, some perks have definitely proven to be a lot better than others. Fallout New Vegas Dead Money featured a new perk called In Shining Armor. This perk temporarily adds plus 5 DT against energy weapons while wearing any kind of metallic armor, and an additional plus 2 while wearing any reflective helmets or eyewear. Now, this perk actually sounds pretty good. However, this is a pretty big however. Due to a technical error, this perk never activates. Just not never. Now, the culprit to this little technical error would be the activating parameter that is referenced when checking the skill type of an enemy weapon. Now, the perk doesn't activate because the mod is waiting for the player to get hit by energy, not an energy weapon. And because energy itself is not a weapon in the game, the perk never activates. Just a genuine waste of a skill point. Now, another pretty infamous perk in the series would definitely be this, but I'm just going to call it the CK perk. And now, the CK perk is more of a reputational status given to the player once they Control-Z some kids in Fallout 1 and 2. The perk gives, or I guess more takes, 30% away from your dialogue stats. Some traders will just not do any business with you, and it also enables random encounters with bounty hunters. There really aren't any benefits to this perk, and I mean, yeah, there wouldn't be. It's actually because the possibility to Control-Z kids, Fallout was initially denied a release in Europe, but after removing all the kids from the game, it was given a second chance. And just as a precaution, Fallout 2 didn't have any children in the European version of the games. Fallout 1 and 2 would officially be the last who would see the perk in the games, but that doesn't keep modders from putting it back in. Tim Cain actually commented on the perk's inclusion, stating that, "We said, look, we're going to have kids in the game. You shoot them, you get a huge penalty to your karma. You are disliked, there are places that would sell to you, people will shoot you on sites. And we thought people could decide what they want to do." It really was just a choice that the devs wanted to add to give the game an added sense of depth and consequences. And I totally get why they added it, though I can see why some people might not be okay with it. The player is a synth. Now, as you can imagine, this theory actually comes from Fallout 4 with the inclusion of synths. Many players have gone on to say that the player character is a synth. Now, this theory was first founded by the Far Harbor DLC, specifically with one of our first interactions with Dima, where he asks the player character about their earliest memories. But the player character can only respond with memories from the very beginning of the game, like have wife, life good, wife die, life sad, think about wife, the usual. With these limited response options, this has caused many players to believe that Father, or Sean, simply created the player character for his "help me mommy or daddy, I'm lost" experiment. This theory is also backed up with the very beginning of the game, when you're free to run around the vaults. The player is actually able to use VATS without the use of a Pip-Boy, though I myself would probably just chalk that up to a coding or just gameplay error. And while some of this evidence is actually pretty compelling, debunking this theory is actually pretty easily done. For instance, if you play through the Brotherhood storyline, you're given a mission to obtain any sort of data relating to synths pertaining to be people up in the Commonwealth, but you yourself are not on that list. Though this could be dismissed that Father just kind of made you off the books, there is another bit of evidence that sort of goes against the theory. The whole Dima memory thing can also be debunked, as there are plenty of times in the game where the player character can actually recall pre-war memories that don't involve the morning directly preceding the bombs. And finally, and probably most obviously, is that the Institute doesn't actually use a recall code on you, despite you, probably actively betraying them. But then again, Father Code just made the player without a recall code. This theory could still go either way, and I'm kind of all there for it. Fallout Nuka Break. Fallout Nuka Break is a live-action fan series created by Zach Finfrock back in 2011. The show lasted for about 3 seasons and has garnered quite the following since its release. The story follows the vault dweller Twig and his friends getting dragged into something much bigger than just a simple courier job. The series was actually so well received that even the developers of Fallout New Vegas, Obsidian, would create a weapon as a nod towards that series. This weapon was called the Nuka Breaker, which is found in the Gunrunners DLC, and the Nuka Breaker itself would also make an appearance in the Nuka Break. The Nuka Breaker itself is a reference to a reference that is also a reference. I love references. It's very cyclical, this little chart here. It's also crudely drawn. I think I use Crayola. This series is seriously awesome, and I could not recommend it enough, especially if you're trying to fill that Fallout fix, because goddamn that cliffhanger. And this series is also getting a sequel coming out in the form of Fallout Breaking. And this first trailer just looks amazing, just as great as the show itself, and I would highly recommend checking it out. I'll leave a link in the description. Fallout Red Star. Okay, this one right here, come here. This one right here, Fallout Red Star, my absolute favorite fan film. Just like, not even just for Fallout, just in general. This is my go-to fan film. Written by Vincent Talenti and written by Roger Nall, Red Star is a spin-off from Fallout Nuka Break, and is set sometime in between seasons 1 and 2. The story follows an NCR ranger tracking down his old buddy's kids from slavers. This film's very reminiscent of older Western pictures, and actually reminds me a lot of The Mandalorian. Just having this semi-masked figure going around the waste, carving his own path to justice. It's a seriously fun time, and the ranger suit itself, a little bulky, but goddamn, they did way better than this. And the VFX are a bit dated, but I'd say still hold up pretty well considering that this is still an independent project. I could not recommend this short film enough, and I would highly recommend you check it out. Storyteller. Storyteller is another fan-made Fallout series created by the YouTube channel Shoddycast. The series itself is made up of 75 episodes, each one talking about different aspects and the general lore of the Fallout series, like the many factions, creatures, and noteworthy characters within the Fallout series. Starting back in November 2013 and ending in January 2017, the series itself started off as a cinematic lore-based show that slowly developed into its own unique narrative. This series would star the storyteller himself, voiced by the Chad-sounding Jason Damon, as he regales tales of the wasteland to every unsuspecting passerby. It's really a fun show to get invested in, especially if you want to catch up on your Fallout lore. No Bark Noonan is the chosen one. In Fallout New Vegas, when visiting Novak, there's this really easy-to-miss character named No Bark Noonan, a character that many believe is the chosen one from Fallout 2. Now, there are a few pieces of evidence that back this theory up. Firstly, outside of Novak, there is a wrecked highwayman that's very similar to the one used in Fallout 2 by the Chosen One, after running around and getting parts to build it piece by piece, only to lose it within 2 minutes of driving into Reno. Now, the car's inclusion caused many to take a closer look at the residents of Novak, and strangely enough, No Bark fits the bill when it comes to the second piece of evidence, that being the timeline itself. Now, Fallout 2 takes place in 2241, and the Chosen One is confirmed to be born in 2221, and Fallout New Vegas takes place about 40 years after Fallout 2. This would put the Chosen One at around 60 years old by the time Fallout New Vegas happens, the same age as No Bark. Adding to this connection would be the named weapon, that gun, which is very similar to the .223 pistol that the Chosen One can use in Fallout 2. And you can find this weapon inside the Dino Bike gift shop. But it's not just the gun's existence itself that makes that connection, it's the fact that you can only find it in Novak, within reach of No Bark. Now, asking No Bark whether or not he's a legendary wastelander isn't exactly an option because he's been stung a few times in the head by a rat scorpion, or so he says. But he does make reference to a certain talking rat over New Vegas radio, and this rat taught him spells. Hell yeah. This itself is a possible reference to the brain from Fallout 2. And finally, the scraping the bottom of the barrel part of this theory is No Bark's name. Now, the origin of the name Noonan actually means the descendant of the beloved one, so, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, this might be it, oh boy. Now, despite the evidence for this theory, there is an argument to be made that he's just fucking crazy. No Bark himself actually claims to have grown up in Novak, and the residents also state that he's been in Novak for as long as anyone can remember. And Fallout 2's ending slide clearly states that the Chosen One became an elder, presiding over the village of Arroyo. It's another theory that I could see go either way. I mean, with 40 years of time in between, anything could have happened, or it's just a few Easter eggs that people started to connect dots that just weren't there. Futurama. Inside the cave of Abaddon, there is a fossilized dog named Seymour. This is a reference to the Futurama episode, Jurassic Park, in which Fry finds his fossilized dog from back in the 20th century. And Seymour himself will only appear if the player has the Wild Wasteland perk. I'm gonna be honest, I only put this in because I'm re-binging Futurama again, and I was watching and I remembered, oh wait, there's a reference to this in Fallout. I should throw that in. And here we are. Mr. New Vegas. Spoiler alert for, I guess, New Vegas, but also the Fallout show. Now, starting back in Fallout 3, players have agreed with radio stations to help drown out the eerie noise and groans and cries of the wasteland, with each radio station having its own host that kind of varies in quality. Like, I'm gonna be honest, did anyone else hate Travis? But for the most part, each host has been fairly serviceable, just telling us about the events of the game or what's going on in the overworld, though none have captured as much fascination as Mr. New Vegas. See, Mr. New Vegas, he's not like the other girls, okay? He's different, he's quirky, he's also a machine. That's right, Mr. New Vegas is actually an AI developed by Mr. House. He was designed to be friendly, and has apparently been on the air for over 200 years. Work ethic, am I right? And here's hoping he's still around when the Fallout show revisits the Mojave. 0 intelligence check. This is exactly what it sounds like. A real head empty, no thoughts approach to character creation. You might be in the middle of character creation and look at your little meat suit and go, you know what? This guy, this fella, I'm gonna give him a 1. 1 in the whole brain factor, just sub-brick intelligence. I mean, that's what I say whenever I look at this guy in the mirror. You think you're better than me? Yeah? In Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas, players were given the option to pretty much make a character with just nothing going on up there. There is no soul in between those eyes. There's just nothing. There's just dust. And with this choice, players are given some pretty goofy-ass low intelligence options. I really love how in these games, you're pretty much given a worse version of something to say. Instead of just stopping you dead in your tracks with the game retroactively declining whatever you want to say, or not even letting you choose what you get to say, even if you have certain requirements. Wanamingo. Now, I don't blame you for not knowing these particular nuclear people biters. The Wanamingo, or aliens according to the game files, only appear in Fallout 2, in Redding, inside the Great Wanamingo Mines. Now, these massive creatures are seemingly only made up of an eyeless face full of sharp teeth, 2 prehensile tentacles for arms, and I'm gonna be honest, just some bird-looking legs. This creature really does embody that 1950s monster aesthetic, along with a clear influence from the Xenomorph from the Alien series. Now, Fallout 2 was their only appearance, mainly because you, the Chosen One, wiped out the entire nest, including the Queen. So even if some outside the nest were alive during the extermination, there's a chance that was the last we saw of them. However, we were meant to see them again in Fallout 3. And while only some concept art does exist, it does show that there was an attempt to revisit the creatures. They were going to look a little different. Seriously, I love that little x-ray where you get to see their skeleton. It just someone needs to make that a pin. But their last known official appearance was actually in Fallout 76, in the form of an in-game plushie, in the form of One Wasteland for All update. Personally, I think the Wanamingo are pretty sick, and I really do hope we get to see them in some shape or form that's not just really, admittedly, marketable plush. Cryptids. Now, despite Fallout 76's mixed reception, players were delightfully met with a plethora of cryptids from West Virginia mythology. You know, for the most part. We would be met with creatures such as the Wendigo, Mothman, Auga, Sheepsquatch, Snallygaster, Crafted Monster, and the Jersey Devil, you know, for some reason. I mean, I guess the distance isn't impossible, but, you know, close enough. The Blue Devil, the Beast of Beckley, the Flatwoods Monster, who in this game is an alien, and the Smiling Man. The Megasloth is also considered a cryptid. I know they're a reference to prehistoric giant sloths like Megatherium, and in the 1700 bones of the ground sloth, Megalonyx jeffersoni, which is a very hard name to say, were found in West Virginia. Though there's not really a lot that invokes the folkloriness as someone like Bigfoot or the Chupacabra would. Besides that, I'm a really big cryptids fan, and I'm just so happy to see all of these just really sickly designed models on Bethesda's part. Who knew a turtle could be scary in this way? You know, except the flying one. Cut creatures. Now, with Fallout being as big as it is, it's bound to have a few creatures that never really made the cuts, or, strangely, in a roundabout way, did make the cut. In Fallout 3, Waste Wolves were meant to be the enemy type that were in the same vein that we would get with the Mongrels. And while these guys wouldn't show up in Fallout 3, they would make an appearance in Fallout 4 Far Harbor DLC, and in 76. Though they would just be going by Wolf, which, cowards. In the cancelled Fallout Tactics 2, concept art shows that we would have been met with a mutant crocodile that looked it looked like a dude? Some of them did, not all the concept pieces. This little guy in particular does look very similar to what we would get with Nuka World's Gatorclaw, though that just might be two people thinking the same way. I like to think there's some weird connection. I don't know. Fallout 3 concept art shows a giant mole rat that apparently would have been some kind of mode of transportation across the capital wasteland. Just so you can reenact your Dune fantasies. Now, Fallout 4 was going to include a giant octopus in the game, as well as a giant Bioshock-style underwater vault. All that remains is this colossal cephalopod and its unwrapped textures for the model itself. Fallout 4 was also going to bring back centaurs from Fallout 3 and what the fuck is that? Cameos. Now, with Fallout being a popular name within the gaming industry, the franchise was bound to be featured, or at least referenced, in plenty of other games. The most recent one is definitely Fortnite. I feel dirty just for saying that. That's right, Fortnite actually has T60 power armor skins for players to wear. So you can live out your little roleplay adventures in Fortnite. There's really nothing else to say besides Fallout's just in Fortnite. I guess if you get the emotes right, you and a friend can reenact power armor kissing Master Chief. Call of Duty is also getting some Fallout skins, which, okay. It's just a really random inclusion if I'm gonna be honest. Dota 2. The game Dota 2 would give players who pre-order Fallout 4 through Steam an exclusive Codsworth or Mr. Handy announcer pack. Evil Within 2 would have a secret Vault Boy bobblehead collectible. Borderlands 2 would actually have a gun named 3 Dog, because 1 barrel ain't enough and 2 is too few. And if the name didn't give away, it's a reference to 3 Dog from Fallout 3. And the only other reference would be alternate skins for the characters Zio and Maya, sporting the classic blue and yellow color scheme, with the names being Vault Dweller and Vault Suit, respectively. For Cyberpunk 2077, a few corpses can be found out in the Badlands around a cellar door with the number 101 painted on the fronts. Apparently these two were after a hydro processor to supply fresh water to the bunker dwellers. Nudge nudge, hint hint, Fallout 1 and 3. Both Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 would have their own fair share of references. With 2016, on some of the heavy doors in the Mars facility in the beginning of the game, vault-tec logos can be found around the doors, as well as a Vault Boys themed Doom Guy figure. As for Eternal, when visiting your room in the Fortress of Doom, you'll find Doom Guy having some magazines referencing the Fallout series, such as a copy of Guns and Bullets and a Vault Dweller's Survival Guide, as well as a Mr. Fuzzy plush hidden in parts of the game. Ghostwire Tokyo just has a straight-up Vault 111 jumpsuits. Minecraft has a Fallout mashup texture pack. Metro Exodus actually makes reference to Liberty Prime. Team Fortress 2 has an honest-to-God Pip-Boy. The Outer Worlds, October 23rd, is the date that the Hope Colony ship was found, and is the same day as the Great War takes place in the Fallout series. And stencil 13s are used for the colony ship interiors. Back in 2020, Fallout's own mascot Vault Boy would receive a Mii fighter costume. You too can play as this little merch demon while squaring up against other mascots like Mario, Sonic, and Sora, because I guess Shrek wouldn't pick up the phone. Rage actually has a magazine that on the cover has a nuclear explosion along with the Fallout catchphrase, War. War never changes. It also got the Vault Boy bobblehead treatment. In Prey 2017, a note from El Take Maintenance Manual makes reference to Vault 13 and water treatment, which is just a reference to Fallout 1. Wolfenstein New Order and Wolfenstein Old Blood would include the Nuka-Cola logo amongst the other in-universe brands. Fallout 4 New Vegas, developed by Project F4NV, headed by project manager Metamoth. This mod is exactly what it sounds like. An attempt to recreate and revitalize Fallout New Vegas within Fallout 4's creation engine. The current F4NV project started off as an earlier attempt at the same goal that kicked off in 2016, but that project came to a close in July of 2017 due to a number of issues going on internally. But the F4NV project picked up where the last team left off and began working towards the same goal. They are remaking all of the quests that were in New Vegas, alongside all the original features, only making a few tweaks here and there wherever it was possible just to take advantage of the newer engine. They also plan on bringing back some cut content, and to expand on the game world where possible. Narrative-wise, nothing's really going to be changing. In anticipation for the mod's release, the team's already released more than a few weapon mods recreating weapons from New Vegas. Also, just a really kick-ass trailer. Like I mentioned earlier, I do not use PC mods because I am just immeasurably scared of destroying my own computer. But I'm still really excited for this mod to come out, even though I know I'm probably never going to touch it. Just holding out the slightest tiny tim bit of hope that it's going to get released on console, but I know it's never going to happen. Let me believe. Fallout Vault 13. Developed by Fallout Vault 13 and headed by project lead Colin Wino and Keybleb. Sorry if I misread your name. Fallout Vault 13 is a complete remake of the original Fallout within Fallout 4. Now, because Fallout 1 takes up a very sizable chunk of California for its map, this mod will be broken up into several playable areas that will make up the size of Fallout 4's Commonwealth. Right now, the team is working on a playable demo that will allow players to explore places like Vault 13, Vault 15, Shady Sands, the Cons, and many more locations. The team has also put up a Shady Sands. Try saying that 5 times fast. Shady Sands. Anyways, they put up a showcase on their YouTube channel that I'll leave a link below. This mod just looks incredibly impressive, and I cannot wait for it to drop. Fallout 4 Project Arroyo. Developed by Project Arroyo, this is a Fallout 2 remake inside Fallout 4. And I swear, these are not all Fallout remakes. This mod also has a really badass trailer to go along with it, and God damn it, Bethesda, just make some back alley deal to make this an official port. I mean, come on! Now, from what I can tell, based on all the art shared and the ever-growing developments, we're looking at a near 1-to-1 translation. And seeing just all this amazing work put into this mod just puts a big dumb smile on my face. Fallout Miami. Stepping away from the remake scene, Fallout Miami is another massive DLC-sized mod taking place in Miami, Florida. Developed by the Fallout Miami team and led by both Luke Benjamin and Hugo Gilbert, this mod is complete with its own original main quests, location, characters, companions, and factions. Like the nomadic, automobile-worshipping nuclear patriots, or you can try rebuilding America to its former glory as a member of the Enclave, as well as numerous and varied perks that attribute to checks that will support multiple playstyles. Now, Fallout Miami was originally just an aesthetic exploration by modder Mika999, and started back in late 2016. He then realized that he had something pretty unique on his hands that resonated pretty well with other members of the Fallout community. So naturally, he began recruiting other mod authors as well as writers in an attempt to create a really memorable expansion for Fallout 4. One thing led to another, and finally, by summer of 2018, development had finally begun. Since the initial announcement, we've gotten a ton of updates about how the mod's progressing, as well as some pretty awesome looking trailers. We've also gotten 2 soundtracks for the mod itself, as well as the occasional modeling live stream on their YouTube channel. I mean, this mod actually makes Florida look kind of inviting. Fallout London. This entry, this one stings the most. Developed by Team Fallon, led by Dean Perladog Carter, Fallout London is a mod that answers the question, what's going on with the rest of the world after the bombs dropped? This mod takes Wastelanders across the pond into the very city of London itself. Here, we're met with a whole slew of new factions, like the Gentry, Tommies, Camelot's personal favorite, Isle of Dog syndicates, the Vagabonds, and many, many more. Canonically, Fallout London takes place between Fallout 1 and 2. The world map itself is actually the size of both the Commonwealth and Far Harbor combined. The mod came out with a dynamite trailer and just a great soundtrack to go along with it. Now, what really stings about this mod is that it was originally meant to release on April 23rd of 2024, 2 days before Bethesda decided to drop their new updates. So even if they did release the mod day of, we would have just gotten 2 days of fun before the game-crashing nightmares. I really hope they get the mod running up as soon as they can, but God, it just sucks. The entire development of this mod is really just that picture of a guy pushing up the stone up a steep hill. Just, goddamn. So just kidding, Fallout London did release. And it's not that Bethesda actually fixed a mistake, it's that they just released the mod and you had to play an earlier version of Fallout 4 without the next-gen updates. And this mod looks awesome, and I want to touch it, but my computer will kaboom. Fallout 3 Number Station. The Fallout 3 Number Station is a creepypasta story about a player who kills 3 Dog. Now, shortly after doing the deed, his radio starts to bug out and would randomly play random pieces of code instead of the regular soundtrack. Now, many have drawn a connection between this story and real number stations that would be used to communicate with sleeper agents inside a foreign nation. And they played a large role in the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. Now, according to the story, if the player leaves the area that GNR broadcasts, a new radio station will appear. And the player also has to be in an incredibly high area for this to occur. And they also have to do a backflip, do an ollie, eat 50 eggs, and max out their mom's credit card. Now, if done correctly, we'll start repeating digits from 1 to 9 in a very monotonous voice, very much outside the charismatic personality of Three Dog. Now, at first, the numbers are typically just nonsense, and are believed to just be randomized. However, after this, there will be 1 to 2 sequences of Morse code before I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire plays, and then the broadcast returns to normal. Now, while the numbers are still kind of gibberish, the Morse code was actually cracked by members of the community, and supposedly translate to these following phrases. Wash the car today, maybe Chinese for dinner. Have you watched my YouTube video yet? I upload myself kicking bums in the nuts. Nice. I can't believe Britney won an Oscar. I can't believe they've actually done it. Not long left. The noise. I can't take the noise anymore. I have a pistol in the attic. The queen has died today. The world mourns. As on days like this, we're all the Brits. That one did not age well. He's dead, and blame will probably be placed on that actor. Booth. Johnson better not cheat me out of the payments. What are you talking about? You'll be missed. Accident in the Gulf. Oil spill apparently averted. Now, a lot of people have actually claimed that these translations have actually predicted the future, with the biggest one actually being the Queen's death, though come on guys, that's not fair. They also make reference to Vice President Andrew Johnson, or someone going by that surname, was the true mastermind behind Abraham Lincoln's assassination, while John Wilkes Booth was framed for it. Obviously, despite all the discussion over it, the number station is still just a creepypasta and urban legend that still goes unproven. Though it's a cool urban legend, so threw it in there. James' Original Fates. Just like every movie, game, show, or comic, the concept art for Fallout 3 tells a very different story from what we would end up getting. One of these big changes would be the fate of James, your dad, your papa, your dadums. Now, in the base game, James sacrifices himself at Project Purity to stop, or more accurately, slows down the Enclave's plans for euthanizing the wasteland. But in the concept art for Fallout 3, we see that at some point in development, James would become a super mutant. Kinda. It's actually a very excruciating change from the looks of it, as only one side of his body is mutating. The Lone Wanderer was actually planned to meet James at Vault 87, where we would find James in the midst of mutation, and would ask his beloved son or daughter to kill him. I imagine they didn't do this because, it was just a throwaway idea, but also it would have felt kind of like a big nothing reunion. You spend the entire game trying to track down your dad, and once you do, you just gotta old yeller him. Plus, they probably didn't want to waste any of that Liam Neeson money either. Joss Sawyer, New Vegas mod. That's right. Even the project lead of New Vegas couldn't keep from making his own set of changes to the base game. This mod is called the J. Sawyer mod, and is intended for those willing to experience a harder, more challenging game, and it was released of December of 2011. This mod also includes several technical fixes and tweaks, particularly to the karma system, that were included in previous patches. While the mod is considered to be unofficial by its creator, according to Sawyer, the mod consists mostly of changes that he liked, but was unsure if the Fallout 3 audience would like, and the team didn't have time to screw around with such decisions. Ghoul origin. Now, as far as anyone knows, there is no definitive answer as to why some people turn to ghouls and others just die. Obviously, radiation plays a big role into it, but no one's really found any concrete explanation as to why. When the player is exposed to large amounts of radiation, we just keel over. But when Moira Brown gets an actual nuke to the face, she just goes full-blown ghoul. Now, I've heard theories that the mutation is partially caused by FEV, released into the atmosphere after one of the bombs hit the Mariposa military base. But we also know that ghouls can just be made, which was the case when we discussed Eddie Winter, who in Fallout 4 was actually referred to as what could have been the first ghoul. But it could also be a case of unique mutations when we discussed the Overseer of Vault 88. Like I said, there were a ton of theories, but none of them have proven to be the concrete answer. Circle of Steel. Originally meant for Van Buren, the Circle of Steel is a sub-faction inside the Brotherhood of Steel. They act as a sort of internal affairs or secret police of the Brotherhood. Unlike standard Brotherhood members, they are not sent out into the wastes in search of pre-war tech. Instead, they hunt members of the Brotherhood who have strayed far from the faction's core tenets. People like those who desert their post, divulge Brotherhood secrets, or those who give out the most sensitive piece of technology to the untrustworthy people of the Wasteland. When this happens, a member of the Circle is sent out to bring them silence. Now, we've only seen this group operate within one instance, that being Fallout New Vegas, specifically in both the Dead Money DLC and Old World Blues. The Circle sent out Christine Royce, the only officially known member of the Circle of Steel, to hunt down Elder Elijah. Like I said before, the group is only seen in New Vegas, but knowing that they exist, it kind of makes me wonder why they haven't shown up in past titles, besides not existing until New Vegas. Like, I feel like the Western chapter of the Brotherhood would have sent out a member or two in an attempt to kill Lions for not hoarding every pair of AirPods he saw, or even in Fallout 4, where they've already been established. With Maxon recruiting both Eastern and Western chapters, he could have sent out a member to kill Dans instead of just you. But who knows, we might see them again in Season 2 of the Fallout show. That'd be a pretty cool inclusion, but we'll just have to wait and see. Timeline controversy. Okay, this is definitely the biggest spoiler for the Fallout show. Skip ahead. Now, when the Fallout show came out, a lot of fans were pretty upset about the show, with some light lore and character contradictions. But the biggest upset came from this timeline of events within the history of the NCR in episode 6 of season 1. The ending of the timeline shows something called the Fall of Shady Sands taking place in 2277, implying that the very capital of the NCR was destroyed before the events in New Vegas that takes place in 2281, causing fans to claim that Bethesda is trying to retcon New Vegas. Now, initially, I didn't think this was the intention. I felt like the Fall of Shady Sands could have been a reference to being stretched across the state and beyond, then the bombing of Shady Sands. And this actually turned out to be confirmed by both Todd Howard and Jonathan Nolan in an IGN interview, stating that Shady Sands was destroyed after the events of Fallout New Vegas. Now, besides that little bit of controversy, I feel like it's always been a possibility for the NCR to collapse. I mean, hell, even New Vegas alludes to this possibility, how they pick up territory way too fast, causing them to get stretched real thin and pretty vulnerable to collapse. Paired with the general hypocrisy and political corruption, if it wasn't going to be Hank blowing up Shady Sands, it might have just been other factions like the Legion or even the NCR splintering itself. Chinese robots. Now, I'm not talking about those tiny liberators from 76. I'm talking about the big boy robots, found in propaganda posters around Fallout 4. Now, while the poster itself is, again, a piece of propaganda, it has caused many to believe that China may have their own equivalent to the now Brotherhood Liberty Prime. Which, I mean, considering the Fallout universe, isn't completely out of the question. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a colossal war machine roaming around the Chinese wastes, waiting for its American counterpart that will never arrive. Oh, you're back. Fallout Tactics 2. Fallout Tactics 2 is the canceled sequel to the first Fallout Tactics, that started its first pre-production shortly before the release of Tactics. But because Fallout Tactics was, itself, the project was cancelled around December 2001. Now, the game would have followed the Midwest Brotherhood of Steel, abiding by the Burgundy ending. Now, the big bad of this game would have been a mutated Gek. Now, the big bad for this game would have been an irradiated Gek that was creating a strain of mutated plants and fungi. The mutant garden would have begun to spread rapidly, preying upon all kinds of animal life for fertilizer. And as you can imagine, the player character would have been tasked with finding the very source of this garden and putting a stop to it. Now, fortunately, this wasn't a case of just lost media, as the game itself never made it past the conceptual phase, aside from a few pieces of concept art like this little alligator man. We might not have gotten a bunch of mutant plant men, but I got this. I'm gonna frame it. Fallout Extreme, epic name, is a cancelled squad-based first and third-person tactical action game. In November of 2000, the game's proposal was presented to Interplay, but it was rejected and nothing really came out of it. In fact, the game's existence was actually a bit of an unknown until the design document was leaked online in January 27th of 2010. The game itself, or more likely the pitch itself, was in development for several months in 2000, but never had a real concrete development team. I mean, the game itself was still in a very, hey, wouldn't it be cool kind of phase, just very, very conceptual. The story of the game would have taken place about a century after the Great War. The Brotherhood of Steel has been expanding and seizing more territory under its control. Their area of influence would have actually stretched as far as Alaska, where their new headquarters is now located. In fact, they were so good at seizing territory and just growing their power that they decided to make a bunch of other people join them. They had a draft. The Brotherhood drafts people. That's cool. They weren't even drafted as like a nice sort of, oh, you get to fight for us for this, this, and this. No, they would just draft people to straight up be cannon fodder. And if you were slightly mutated, like you had an extra toe or something, oh, they would not like you. Yeah, the Brotherhood are the straight up villains of this game, and would have been the main antagonists, at least for the first half of the game. The player would be in control of a 4-person squad of specialized characters, and would be able to switch between characters at any moment. So your basic squad-based shooter, I'd say. Even a multiplayer mode would have been planned for the game. There would be modes like Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, Assault, Squad Deathmatch, Squad Capture the Flag, and Squad Assaults. And in an attempt to stay true to Fallout's RPG roots, missions would have been interconnected, and the player's choices would have consequences. For example, if the player destroyed a bridge in the territory in one mission, the enemy forces might be weakened in the next one because they lack reinforcements. Of course, this is just in early design documents, so it's likely that some of those features and story elements would have been changed or straight up removed had the game gone past the initial pitch. Fallout Brotherhood Steel 2. Fallout Brotherhood Steel 2, also known as Vagrant Lands, is the cancelled sequel to the first Brotherhood Steel. Just like in Tactics, this would be another project that began development shortly before the release of the first Brotherhood Steel. But because that game was the way it was, and just like Tactics, the design document would eventually get leaked in 2009, and once again shows a game that was in the very earliest of stages in development. Fallout Pen and Paper D20. Fallout Pen and Paper D20 was a planned paper role-playing game based off, you guessed it, cars, and was developed by Glutton Creeper Games. Back in June 2006, GCG finished contract negotiations with Interplay to acquire the license for a Fallout game. The products announced by GCG were the Player's Guide, the Campaign Guide, and the Organization Companion Guide. But then, in 2007, Bethesda had already stepped in and acquired the rights to Fallout. They then stated that Interplay never had the rights to license a pen and paper RPG, so then they just pulled the contract. Bethesda even went as far to say that this game would have potentially damaged not just the Fallout brand, but the release of Fallout 3 just by linking the two. Because I guess it would have been just so terrible. Oh no. Let players have their own fun? No, we decide when you have fun, damn it. But after that little incident, the project was later reworked into the post-apocalyptic tabletop game called Exodus. And it's kind of ironic how Exodus came to be, considering that Fallout itself is a reworked version of Wasteland because Interplay couldn't get the rights to it. It's kind of a funny repeat of history for you. Deathclaw OG design. Now everyone that knows Fallout knows the Deathclaw. The 10-foot Satan-looking beast of misfortune that's out against everyone in the Wasteland. And sometimes he's Randy Savage. But the original designs for the Deathclaws would have been very, very different for what we would know. Artist Scott Campbell came up with the original design for the Deathclaw. And that's it's very, very different take from what we would get. Looking more like a wolfman than anything. But due to engine limitations, game designers weren't able to create the character with so much hair, so the idea was abandoned. But Blackout wasn't just about to give up on the Deathclaw. The devs found out that the game Planescape Torments had an unused monster called the Tararske? Here it is on screen. And the devs over at Planescape had the creature model just lying around. So one thing led to another, and Interplay bought the rights to the Deathclaw design. But this wouldn't be the last we see of a hairy Deathclaw, no. As in Fallout Tactics, we would see Deathclaws with bits of hair and having a more draconic looking head, and yeah, they don't look so great. Thankfully Fallout 3 came around to just pretend nothing happened. Old World Blues, cut endings. Now, Fallout has a ton of different cut endings within the series, but none are just as unhinged or fucking bizarre as the ones made in Old World Blues. Now, one of these endings would have been available when joining the think tank, as you essentially enable them to essentially turn the Mojave into a giant petri dish for their experiments. For example, Goodsprings would have been crushed under a massive pile of blocks that reached towards the sky. That's cool. A satellite would have fell on Jacobstown, beaming a kaleidoscope of bright blue equations. That would have driven some of the Night Kin mad and just paralyzed others. Finally, and my favorite addition to this, is that the Legion would have been systematically brain scrubbed and rebuilt into thinking that they were the inhabitants of ancient Rome on the moon, of course. Oh, and the citizens of the NCR would have just been thrown into Tranquility Lane from Fallout 3, So, not as zany, but still, pretty hell. Now, this ending was likely cut due to time constraints, but goddamn, I feel robbed. New Vegas cut post-game. Now, when you finish New Vegas, the game will just boot you back to the menu screen, and when you try to go back in, the game will just load you back into the prior save before the ending of the game. But that wasn't always meant to be the case. The player was actually meant to continue the game after the ending slides. Just like how the Broken Steel DLC would have allowed players to do this in Fallout 3, but, already built in, didn't have to go through a paywall for that. This was unfortunately cut due to time constraints. Despite that, the devs did record many lines of dialogue with NPCs and Mr. House himself commenting on the many endings you could have taken. Though probably Mr. House commenting on how you sided with him, because that was really cool. There also would have been elements like having different NPCs patrolling the New Vegas Strip and the various roads leading to the Strip. And I'll be honest, this was definitely something that at least I felt was missing from the game. Just getting to revisit the world that you helped shape, no matter how small, would have been a nice little touch. Godzilla. You thought I was done. You thought I wouldn't talk about the fucking king of the monsters? Because Godzilla himself actually has 2 notable cameos within the Fallout series. 2 kinda. It's debatable on the first thing. Now in the first Fallout game, players can encounter a giant footprint with a red puddle inside of it. Now some believe this is a reference to the first official plot of Fallout, which would have involved a lot of time traveling elements that would involve dinosaurs. But there are other players, like me, who believe this is a reference to the short film, Godzilla vs. Bambi. And that's what you get for minding your own fucking business, you dumbass deer. And in Fallout New Vegas, there was a cut creature from the game, simply called Gecko. But the game files is actually a giant building-sized monster called Gojira. Gojira is a giant fire gecko that can only be spawned in via console commands. Goji even has his own unique fire breath weapon, simply called Gojira Flame, which has a base damage of 400 and an insane DPS of 3200. He also has an insurmountable 8000 HP. It can literally kill anything that is placed in front of it. Not even the strongest creatures in the game, like the giant Robo-Scorpion, legendary Deathclaw, or legendary Blowfly, can't even stand a chance against Gojira, making it the strongest creature in the game. Unofficially, but also kind of officially. I expect nothing less with this absolute beast of a rando enemy keeping up with the Goji legacy name. Who is the Mysterious Stranger? The Mysterious Stranger is a character that's appeared in all the mainline Fallout games. The Stranger randomly appears and helps you fight off enemies whenever you have the Mysterious Stranger perk acquired. As the name implies, the Stranger's origin and actual purpose is something of a mystery of itself, and there are a ton of theories as to who he really is. Some claim that he's not just one, but many secret agents sent out into the wasteland by some unknown governmental faction to keep tabs on your activities. Others claim that he has some otherworldly origin sent down to help you for some cosmic reason, and the same can be said for characters like Misfortune and the Mysterious Savior. And my favorite theory is that he's the actual main character, and you're just some rando going around breaking shit in his general vicinity. And you only get to acknowledge him through brief instances of sanity while using VATS. I mean, this is just the most compelling train of thought, I don't know what you want me to say. Despite whatever theory you might subscribe to, there are a few things that we know for sure about him. For instance, we know for a fact that he's only visible through VATS, and only visible to the player. At least that was until Fallout 4, where it's confirmed that Nick Valentine can actually see him while the player is using stats. In fact, it's actually kind of a relief that someone else knows about the Stranger, because Nick is actually trying to put together a file about who the Stranger really is. And the only other bit of information we know about the Stranger is that he's definitely fucked. In Fallout New Vegas, it's heavily implied that the Stranger is the father of the Lonesome Drifter. In fact, when describing his long-lost dad, the Drifter says that his father was a very mysterious man, and was always a stranger to his own family. Very, very fun wordplay there. But what really seals the deal is the weapon that the Drifter is carrying. If you recruit the Drifter to do stage work on the Strip, or just loot his body, you fucking monster, you will receive the Mysterious Magnum, a weapon that plays the Stranger's theme song whenever it's drawn and holstered. To this day, people are still debating on what the Stranger, as well as other VATS-based characters, really are. Then again, if we actually got an answer, it'd probably be a lot more disappointing than a lot of the theories that we would come up with. Hobo language. And finally, we're going to cover the cut hobo language from Fallout New Vegas. These symbols would have been used by the lesser fortunate goers of the wasteland to help each other navigate the Mojave. Some symbols would indicate the whereabouts of doctors, caps, or even just general danger. However, due to time constraints, this system was essentially worked out. But the graffiti symbols still remain scattered throughout the game, and were actually reworked for some of the DLC. And so, the iceberg was complete. The secrets of the waste had been revealed. For now, the Wastelander, who happened upon a blob and a wizard, still burning with questions of what they were not told of the old world and the new, continued their journey north, seeking their answers. After the iceberg, Brainfolds headed towards the Great Divide in an attempt to convert the tunnelers into embracing the children of Adam, though his many, many attempts are still varied.
WIZO hated the wasteland. He decided to move west and see what was left of the NCR. About 5 minutes later, he made love to a beautiful ghoul woman. At least I think it was a ghoul woman, I don't know. Okay, hear me out on the ghouls.
And so, our road comes to an end. For now. In the world of the American wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died, just as they had before. Because war never changes. Thank you all so much for checking out my follow Iceberg. I know it's been such a month. It definitely didn't take multiple because I definitely overestimated what I was able to do in 1 month. So I'm still going to make longer Iceberg length videos in the future, but I'm going to start making smaller in-between videos before the big boy releases, the big time reveals. But until then, thank you again for watching. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, beat the subscribe button with a wooden club you found outside, and hit the notification bell until you're politely asked to stop. And I'll see you next time. If I don't, damn.